Hi, I'm Gareth.
Hi, I'm Jackie. We are Vegan FTA. Thank you for tuning into another episode of our series Activist.
In today's episode, we have a brilliant interview with James Wilson, and we're talking about his book, Plant Paradigm.
This book is an absolute must-read if you've never heard of it before. It is the tale of an ex-farmer of 4 decades who went vegan and now does his best to speak out and encourage everyone else to do the same for all the right reasons. It is a fantastic read, and we really enjoyed meeting James, who at 79 proves that it is never too late to turn your life around.
We hope you enjoyed the episode, and please check out the book. It is a brilliant one to have in your library.
So for all the people who are fed up to the back teeth with fending off questions like, where do you get your protein from? Or, but humans have got canine teeth, help is here thanks to author James Wilson. His book, The Plant Paradigm here, details every reason why we should go vegan. And it also provides all the help that we need to begin making that transition, which is pretty amazing considering that James was once a farmer upon a time, and he didn't actually have a good word to say about vegans. So, James, thank you very much for joining us today.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
Lovely to have you.
Well, first of all, thank you for putting together such a fantastic and comprehensive resource. You know, your book is it's living proof that it's never too late to change your beliefs and your habits. Can you tell us a little bit about your farming days, though? How big of a farm and what sort of organization it was? What type of farm?
Well, I was born on the farm I farmed, and then I traveled. I studied agriculture overseas, and I worked on quite a number of farms before going back to the family farm. It was 600 acres of good Manawatu land, and we were farming sheep and cattle, and a bit of cropping, but and in the early days it was sort of fattening beef and breeding ewes. But we moved into dairy beef. We raised a lot of calves, and as well as
Definitely. So decent sized operation. And like you said in your book, you know, you were a proud farmer, you know, very patriotic as we are here in New Zealand, you know, and in helping to feed the country and that kind of thing. So, you know, it's been a huge turnaround for you. And that turning point came when you were hearing a radio interview, weren't you, after being prescribed warfarin, which is basically rat poison. So what was it that, you know, what did you hear in that interview that led to such a dramatic turnaround for you?
Well, trying to keep it short, but I suffered 2 pulmonary embolisms, and when I had the second one, the doctors prescribed me on warfarin for life. And I dutifully followed that advice for a few months. But it was terrible thing to knock me around, and I was working in the bush, and I was bleeding all the time when I came out of the bush. And so I declared that I was going to give up warfarin, to hell with it. And all my friends and all the medical people that I knew said I would die. They were quite blunt about it, I would die. But I was so fed up with the warfarin, I said, well, I'm going to give it a go anyway. And as I was going through the process of giving up the warfarin, Kim Hill was interviewing this guy, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. And I was so convinced by what he had to say that by the time he'd finished the interview, I decided I was going to go for a plant-based diet. And went off and bought his book, cleaned the house out of all the wrong food, and I've been vegan ever since.
Oh,
and
good on you.
Something like 10 years ago now.
Oh wow, so it's been that long, yeah. That's cool. I mean, certainly Dr. Esselstyn, he's pretty much inarguable, isn't he? He presents such a good case. So that's fantastic that, you know, he made it all the way on the airwaves to New Zealand like that. So
absolutely. Well, I think he must have been in New Zealand. I'm not sure now. But anyway, yes, he's very convincing. And then, of course, having read him, and then the China study, and then John McDougall and so many of the other authors and doctors, and you only have to read 1 or 2 to be totally convinced, but then the rest just keep reinforcing the image that they're trying to put across.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like warfarin, or, you know, which way do you go? It's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? Once you know, it's
And it's like for us, we're always watching more of these lectures from the doctors, and although we're already at that stage, there's always just another little quote or something to learn from, and it's always just so wonderful to keep on researching it. But so obviously, yeah, you decided to go plant-based for health reasons, understandably. But however, it wasn't too long before, the plight of the animals sort of caught up for you. So from 4 decades of farming animals, did you have a sort of a light bulb moment, a sort of wake up point, where you realized the ethical side of things?
It was all gradual. Imagine to move from a man who used to say on a number of occasions that the only good vegan was a dead one, because I really was violently anti-veganism when I was a farmer. I used to make my children eat meat 3 times a day. I thought the world revolved around meat. So to go to change to be vegan was a hell of a mindset change for me, and so just focusing on eating the right food and learning how to eat the right food, let alone cooking it, were the 2 things that I focused on. But very gradually, as time went on, I then became more and more aware of the environmental damage that the meat industry is causing around the world, which is huge. And I was introduced to that when I early on, when I went vegan, I created a website called wanttolivealongtime.com. And from there, I got a letter from 2 men in the States who worked for the United Nations Food and, well, I can't forget the term now. And they wrote to me and said, keep on with your good work. If only half the world stopped eating meat, we could reverse our carbon levels back to pre-industrial times. And that's never left me. That's how easy it is to reverse our carbon problems. It's just give up eating meat. And so that started me on the track of thinking about the environment. And then I started, and I was reading, so now I was hot on being my human health and environmental health. And then relatively late in the piece, it dawned on me that we were treating animals like we treated slaves. That we buy and sell them, we decide when they breed, we decide when they live, we decide when they die, and all to produce a product that's killing us and killing the world. So the cruelty to animals one, or the ethical one, it was the last of my 3 enlightenments. But they're all equal. It doesn't matter who I talk to now. I can talk on any 3 and feel that I'm still. There's no arguing with what I'm saying.
Absolutely, yeah. The more you know, you can't unknow it once you make that connection.
That's right. Yes.
Definitely. So for you, I mean, as a farmer for 40 years, it must have come as a huge shock to those around you that all of a sudden you're like, no, this is bad. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. So what kind of response did you get? Did people get angry with you, especially people that you know?
Well, yes. I've always been known as someone who's quite willing to change his mind if I've got a different opinion. And so a number of my close friends sort of said, oh, James is going off on another tangent. But then they were, many others were just like I was, furious with me for breaking the rules. And still that applies. People will still get really angry with me because I'm acting as a traitor, because and last week I was branded a terrorist, and that's because I'm threatening the demise of the major export product in New Zealand, and there's another element, of course, that I've now come to learn about, which is that fake meat and fake milk is what I call them, but it's in fact plant-based meat and milk, and now a real threat to the meat and dairy industry in the Northern Hemisphere, where the markets are. And so I just feel nowadays, when people get angry with me, which they do, they still get very angry with me, I'm doing nothing more than being the messenger. My message is, you're going to live longer, the world's going to be a better place, the animals that don't deserve to be treated this way, and no one's going to want your products in the near future anyway, which makes everyone very angry, because what are they going to do with their land? And I haven't got the answer to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things that we were talking about we were just saying this morning, weren't we, about being messengers, and it's not a competition when you try and talk to people about why it's good to become vegan. It's not like we get paid a commission for doing it, or there's nothing in it for us. It's like, oh, notched up another one, it's not about that. So yeah, it's quite amusing why people get so angry. But like you say, we're threatening in their eyes what has been a very, very profitable system for a very long time.
Well, yes, not forgetting that when I was a boy coming out of the Second World War, my father preached to me constantly that we were doing the most patriotic thing we could by feeding the Brits. So in my youth, farming was a patriotic exercise, or seemed to be. And then it turned into now it's pure economics. There's nothing patriotic about it.
Yeah. So we heard in a radio interview you did about the book when it was initially sort of released and stuff, that you wrote it to sort of fire back at some of those people saying, oh no, not another vegan, when hearing about your lifestyle choice, and something just a slap down in front of them, as you put it. And how did you go about choosing the information you put in that book, to be that response to slap in front of them?
I have to tell you, it hasn't been as successful as I wanted.
Hopefully we can help you with that.
I hope you can. I studied the whole subject for I don't know how many, 6 or 8 years. And I had it all bursting in my head. And I sat down and I wanted to write the 3 things. And in the book, I refer to the 3 legs of a stool. And you only have to believe one of those 3, the health, the cruelty, or the environment. And still, you should be giving it up, or at least contemplating it. But the amount of tables I've slapped it on and the effect it's had is disappointingly low. People are complimentary about the book. They say, oh, it's well written, some of them say, and it's interesting, but I'll think about it, or I'll do it next year. I'll do it when I'm getting old.
Yeah, my mother has a good friend who she's really trying to help her because she has osteoporosis, isn't it?
Rheumatoid arthritis, I think.
Rheumatoid arthritis, and she has all these different health problems, and she's given them the book like the China study. And when you've read the China study, I don't know how anyone can refute anything like that. And you can put all the knowledge in front of some people. You put all the knowledge right there for some people, and they just doesn't go in, unfortunately. Sometimes I think maybe we have to slap them with the book, not actually read it.
The people that I know that have changed because of a fright, they're the lucky ones, like I did. If you get a medical fright and then take enough initiative to read one of these books, then you can make the move. But I have to say that an awful lot of people I know my age, or not younger than me, that are now inside what John McDougall, I think it is, refers to as a medical envelope. And once they get inside that medical envelope and they get a stent put in their artery or whatever it is, and they and the doctor says, oh, I only just got that in time, otherwise you'd be dead by now. And whether it's a stent or whether it's some other cure, that they get inside that envelope, and the doctors persuade them that they saved them, and now you have to follow my dictums to keep alive, and they go on down that path. And the further they step into that envelope, the harder it is for them, or for me, to draw them out, or for them to pull the way out of the medical profession and go down this other path. And even if they go to the doctor and say, look, I've read this book and I think that I should change the diet, the response is, oh, the diet's, it's not going to make it. You do that diet if you want to, and not go for it, and we'll watch what it happens, and we'll gradually withdraw you from the medical treatment. There's none of that. And so an awful lot of my people of my age are too scared to step away. And that's what I think.
Yeah, definitely understand that. And we've been conditioned to put our faith completely in our doctors. They're the ones that know best. So doctors don't like people like us saying, no, you don't know best. You're not looking at the big picture. And patients don't like to think that their doctors aren't they don't know enough. They're not doing the best for them. But I mean, I have to say that your when it comes to a book that you want to slap down in front of everyone, you've really succeeded in that. I mean, I read this over the weekend, and it's fantastic. You know, I kind of, you know, being a vegan for 3 years now, I was thinking, oh, it's probably not too much that I don't know, but there is a lot that I don't know, and I've never seen a book that contains so much fantastic information all in the one place. You know, it really is the kind of book that you just want to be like, read this will tell you everything. You know, it will change your mind. It will, you know, there's just a staggering amount of information in here. You know, it's all undeniable. You've got it in pictures, you've got it in graphs. Must have taken you ages to research, but you know, to me this book presents the best and the most detailed case for going vegan that I've actually come across.
That's very kind of you.
Oh,
very,
it's
very kind.
no exaggeration. You know, it really is so comprehensive, and you know, I think everyone should read it, particularly every New Zealander if they want to see what's really happening in their own country. But everyone around the world, you know, it's hugely enlightening. You know, how did you go about choosing what information you wanted to know, that you wanted to include?
I belong to a writers group, and I actually started writing a book, and I've subsequently finished the book, which is a bit of sort of an autobiography of what I now regard as my first 2/3 of my life. Now that I'm going to live a long time, and so I got a fair bit of skill in putting words together, and then I so enjoyed going to this writers retreat that I wanted to know what I was going to write next. So that was the start of me writing the book, was because I had to go to a writers retreat. But so then I suppose I wrote a lot bigger book, and then edited it down to this, because I didn't want it to be long. I didn't want people to bore. And in fact, there's a bit of a criticism I've got of quite a few of the books that you get out of America anyway, speaking generally, where the message comes in the first 2/3 of the book, or the first half of the book, and then they sort of pad it out so it makes and they start repeating themselves, sort of thing. And I wanted a book that put it down on the paper and then walk away. And you know, so that's the way I planned to do it, and that's the way it's worked out.
It's awesome. I mean, for people that haven't seen the book yet, I mean, you've got fantastic detailed arguments, for want of a better word, you know, about why, you know, our current system is so bad for our health, bad for the animals, bad for the environment. But then, you know, the second half of the book is all the positive stuff. Well, this is what we can do to change that. If you're thinking about going vegan, this is what you do. Here are some people that are really going to help you on your journey. Here are some people that have, you know, testified how great you're going to feel and how much of a difference it makes. You know, it really is, you've got the whole shebang in here. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you very much. The area of what interests me is the area of animal cruelty, because that's an area where we're totally blind to it, aren't we? We can accept the health if only we could get out of the medical envelope. You know what I mean? And we've got to accept. We're going to accept the carbon footprint we're creating with animal farming. But the cruelty to animals, because we've been slaughtering and dealing with animals for so long, we're completely blinded. And that's the one that amazes me, that you can talk to people at a dinner party and say, you know, would you been happy if you'd gone out and killed that animal and dealt with it before it was put on the table? And of course, if you get deep enough under their skins, they're horrified about it. But then they shut it away. And so they shut that one away, and in the process they shut the others away. So thank you for saying nice things about the book, but if only I could get it through to people.
Oh, we're sure it will. Like, it's all just that matter of you know, hitting the person at the right time. You know, that right bit of information, if it comes at the right time, will just all of a sudden blossom, you know, and grow that seed immensely. So when you're going through all the information, was there any piece of information in particular that was the most shocking, or, you know, just really sort of blew you away when you discovered it?
Yes, indeed. I've got the book here. The graphs that show the the biomass. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The biomass growth, and that is just shattering. Back there was wild animals only, and a few humans, and you get to this side, and there's virtually no wild animals left, and that line up there is all the domesticated animals, including humans. But the important thing is, being a farmer, this line going along here is the carrying capacity of the earth.
Wow.
And that carrying capacity is what the earth is capable of producing. And everything above that line has been forced grown with using fossil fuels.
Crikey.
Now, so that, and people won't grasp that. And to me, that is just enormous. And so that the day the oil ceases, that line there is just going to plummet. And not only the domesticated animals, but humans as well, I'm afraid. But the fact is that the bulk of that line is domesticated animals.
It's just a system built to collapse, isn't it?
It is too. It is. It's shocking to me, and that was a big realization that it's totally, this meat eating habit we've got is totally unsustainable.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, you know, one thing that really hit me as an ex-farmer myself, you know, when you were talking about how we've bred these animals to be docile, you know, and that really hit, you know, here I was back in the day, 50 kilos, 5 foot nothing, and I was in complete control of a herd of 220 animals, you know, 220 dairy cows. That shouldn't, it's mind blowing now, you know, that shouldn't happen. That should not happen. But, you know, you talk in frank detail about the cruelty farmers inflict on their animals, even if they don't realize it. And, you know, you even said on air, cruelty to animals from farmers is the normal, natural thing to do. So, you know, as a former farmer myself who now speaks out against that industry, having that knowledge, I really applaud your honesty and thank you for doing that. You know, I've been asked many times by other vegans how on earth I didn't realize how much we exploit these docile creatures, you know, even though there are a lot of practices that I didn't like. At the time, you know, I was just told, well, it's tough, you know, that's how it is. I was conditioned to accept that this is just part of the great circle of life, you know. So in your farming days, how were you conditioned as a farmer?
Well, I just because I grew up to it. I grew up with it. I castrated my first 2-year-old bull when I was, I don't know, 12 or something like that, you know, without anesthetic.
Over here, yeah.
And which, when I look back on it now, as an adult, being castrated as an adult with no anesthetic and just throw the bulls to the dogs afterwards, it's just beyond comprehension. And yet that's what I was taught to do at that age. And by then, of course, I'd been involved with docking and lambs. And just the thought, when I wrote the book, I was thinking about the various cruelties we inflict and how we should be thinking about those animals as if they were children, because they are children of other animals. And just putting an ear mark in a lamb or shoving an ear tag into a calf is a brutal attack on their integrity. And we do it all the time. If you do it all day, you just do it. You don't even think about the cruelty or anything.
Oh, exactly.
You just grow up with it. And
yeah, I remember kids that were so excited to get a day off school because they got to help dehorn the cattle. And you're right, it's a huge part of life. And we are extremely conditioned. It's interesting. I don't know how it is for other countries, but being over here, that's certainly how it is.
Well, even
I think it's the same all over the world. I mean, it's, in some countries they've got different levels of where anesthetics should be used. Take dehorning as an example. But whereas in New Zealand, I don't know what it is now, but certainly when I was doing it, we were dehorning cattle with horns like that, huge things. Like the animal threw his head everywhere, you'd be flying all over the place trying to crunch the thing up.
Yeah, very bloody, very messy. Oh, horrible. Even the paste, we used to use paste. It was like paste, and even that you could just see them it must have been awful, this acidic stuff,
Yeah. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
Oh God, I mean, yeah, it fills me with horror. Like, how do you feel now looking back that you were once part of the animal agriculture industry? How do you feel?
I don't make any excuses. I was brought up to it with it, and I saw it as being patriotic and then an essential financial thing to do. And when we start discussing it like we are now, I start thinking, oh my God, that's terrible. But I don't lie in bed and worry about it. I inflicted it and I did it, and that's the end of that story. But I do relate it frequently to slavery. I see this exact same story. People were taken from Africa or wherever they might have been taken from, and treated, bought and sold, and prodded to see whether they had good muscle, you know what I mean, and then fed the minimum of feed or the appropriate amount of feed so they get enough work out of them, and everything about it was treated exactly the same as farmers treat livestock. And now it's slavery. I know it still goes on, but we're in civilized world is absolutely horrified about the actual actions of slavery. But we accept the same treatment to sentient animals that we've got around us. But you did raise before the point about the breeding. We have bred those animals to accept that now. 10,000 years of breeding. They've produced docile cows and docile sheep. And so we seem to think that they're quite happy having it done to them.
Yeah, that was definitely something that like I said, really, really hit that for me. The fact that we've caused these animals to literally submit to our will is just, really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I think, like there are more and more of us farmers coming out and talking, and, I applaud you so much for that. And, for me, once I made that connection, it was very hard to live with. It was really, really hard, very hard to forgive myself. And another dairy activist, Jessica Strathdy, she sort of said to me, well, the way I deal with it is the fact that we've got this knowledge, we were put on this earth for a purpose, and we need to use this knowledge, this information, this experience to get it out there, to
open other people's eyes to what's really going on. Having known and experienced it fully yourself, you're then able to say it with the full backing of that experience.
And to all the people that say, oh, that doesn't happen here, it only happens in America, it only happens in the US or whatever, it's like, oh no, don't kid yourself.
No, I think I hadn't thought of it along those lines, but I guess I've definitely got it as part of, it's my reason for living now, is to appreciate all the three legs of the stool. Yeah, it doesn't matter which one, but we've been focusing lately about the animal cruelty. But it is my mission. There's no way I'm walking back from it, that's for sure. I mean, I'm no way am I going to walk back from it, because I'll die, and I don't want to die.
I loved what you said in an interview recently, actually. I think it was with Jesse Mulligan, and he sort of said, how do you stand out amongst your peers? And you said, of course, they're either all dead or dying, so it's wonderful.
It's a sad truth. It's a sad truth.
Well, on the topic of the three legs of the stool, in your book, you actually talk about a fourth one, which we really love as well. And you say about being vegan for the joy of it as well. And when did that joy become apparent to you, with this lifestyle?
I was wondering about that, and I thought, what came to mind was going, I think it was to my daughter's garden one day, and she picked me a whole lot of silver beet, and I started salivating, which is what I used to do if someone gave me a chop or a lump of steak. And I started salivating at this green silver beet, and I do that all the time now. But that was I suddenly realized, my God, this is the way I like to live now.
Yeah.
And that was almost a dawning experience there. But,
for us, I totally understand the whole joy aspect, and that was something that we discovered very early on as well. And one of the great things we found about cooking plant-based vegan food is that there's just so much of it. When we were eating meat, you know, we sort of stick to the same old recipe: shepherd's pie on Wednesdays, roast on Sundays, you know. But it really opened up a whole new world of cooking for us. And I'm sure, you know, you and your wife Barbie were the same. And where did you find those recipes from in those early days? Who did you turn to for inspiration?
When I went vegan, I said to Barbie, my wife, this is it, we're going vegan. And she said, well, who's going to do the cooking? And I said, I'll do the cooking. And so I've been doing it ever since. And but luckily for me, I've always enjoyed cooking. And so then I just ransacked the web and ransacked it. And all those books like Esselstyn and Colin Campbell's son, whatever his name is, and John McDougall and Grieger, they all offer all sorts of recipes. Most of them I found as unsuitable for a New Zealand flavour, New Zealand taste. But these gave me the start. And now I've got hundreds and hundreds of recipes now. And I should publish them like you've done, a recipe book. But on the other hand, so often someone says, oh, can I have that recipe that you've made me? Can I have a copy of that recipe you sent me a year ago? And I've got to admit, I've completely changed the recipes in the last 12 months. So that's what I love about it. Every day is different.
It really is. It really is. It just expands your repertoire so much, doesn't it? You know, even what we've done, like you say, you know, we've written the cookbook and we're going back to it now because people are coming to us saying, oh, we've made this recipe and it's great. And we're like, oh yeah, you know, because there's so much available that you're just constantly making new things. Whereas when, you know, before we were vegan, we just, same old, same old.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, that, isn't it? So nothing's static once you get into this game.
Yeah. Like for me, it really invigorated me in the kitchen as well. When I first went, I've started doing a lot of the cooking, and I'm a terrible one for. I'll jump in the kitchen and I'll make something wonderful. I'll cook up a storm. I'll give it to Jackie, and she said, "Oh, what's in this? How did you make this?" And I go, I don't know. I was in the kitchen.
I'll never make another one of those. That happens every day here.
So there's always a lot of discussion in the vegan groups about, you know, ditching the meat, eggs, and dairy. What do you think is the best approach? You know, whether just to gradually do it or just a straight cold turkey, just ditch the lot.
I was a very heavy smoker, and the only way I survived that life is by going cold turkey. And I actually feel that the way to do it is go cold turkey. Because if you don't go cold turkey, it's like, you know, I'll give up smoking. I'll only have 3 a day. Well, that generally means that next week you'll be doing 10 a day. Sort of thing. And I think the same with going cold turkey. I felt that I had to draw the line in the sand, which I would not go over, and that was a very early decision. And every now and again I slip up, but very, very seldom. And I hate myself for it. It's a personal dislike now, apart from the fact that if I eat meat, I can't actually swallow it nowadays. But so I think cold turkey is the way. But of course, everyone's different. Other people may be able to squeeze down and down. Yeah. But they haven't had a fright if they're doing it that way.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. I was just listening to, I think it was Anne Esselstyn the other day, and she was just doing a cooking demonstration, and she was saying, "Oh God, just do it. You know, don't faff around. Just go in and do it. You know, it's the best thing that you can do for yourself." So, yeah, definitely. And yeah, we went cold turkey. I mean, Gareth said I went vegan. He said he would support me, but would never go vegan himself. And 5 days later, he was straight in cold turkey. So
yeah, I was the anti-vegan as well before things started out, and I was happy to support Jackie. But it was with the food, and then learning about some of the health things that lured me in, and then of course, same. You start learning about one of the aspects, then the next one comes, and then the next one comes, and then next thing you know, you're a full-blown activist. So
the sad story is the people I know who one of a couple want to be vegan, but they have to cater. Generally, the cook wants to be vegan, but they have to cater for the spouse that refuses to be vegan. And I know a lot of people in that camp, and that's a very hard one. And so one of a couple going vegan is hard work. I think it seems to me it is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I mean, even when we first went vegan, although it was only 5 days before Gareth went vegan, those 5 days I felt like I was just endlessly in the kitchen, because just cooking 2 things all the time, because it wasn't just a case of when I was vegetarian years ago, you cook a roast dinner and you'd have all the veggies, but just not have the meat. It wasn't a case of doing that when you're vegan, so yeah, that was interesting. I'm really glad that he made the switch so quickly.
I think you did very well, and I feel so sorry for the ones I know that they really want to go vegan, and they obviously want their partner to go vegan, because they generally the partner's pretty crook, but
yeah,
but they can't persuade the partner, and so they lapse every now and again because of the effort. So.
Yeah, definitely, it becomes too hard, and we see that all too often. So I mean, for us, eating meat and dairy is such a huge part of New Zealand culture, and we know a lot of people that are fitness fanatics that they know the information, they've seen the game changers, they know the sense in it, and they want to give it a go. They know that it's so much better as athletes for their performance, their health, and their recovery, but they've said to us the one thing that stops them is this whole cultural indoctrination, I suppose. They sort of say things like, "Oh, God, my family will disown me if I stop doing that," or my grandparents, it's their livelihood. If I stop eating meat and dairy, I feel like I'm going against everything that they've worked for. So, Did you experience any of these feelings going against that culture that we were once such a proud part of? What sort of advice would you give other people that sort of have to deal with that?
Oh, I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, you talk about fitness freaks. Around the world, the successful endurance athletes, and that's the most telling of all, athletic endeavors, they can only survive in the game if they go vegan, because all the top ones are vegan, and if they want to compete, they've got to go vegan. And so, and do you know what? That's been going on since the first discovery in Harvard was I think it was during the First World War that they discovered that when vegan athletes had greater stamina and strength than meat eaters. Did you know that?
No.
Dr. Spock. You've heard of Dr. Spock?
Yeah.
He was raised a vegan. He went to Harvard. He got into the rowing 8, and he was told he would only stay in there if he ate meat. So he converted as a student to eating meat. And it wasn't until some years, many years later, that Dr. John McDougall, found out that the year he was forced to eat meat was the year that Harvard, in another part of the university, discovered that vegans had a higher level of stamina and strength. And so that was that's over 100 years ago now, and still athletes think they've got to eat meat and milk for stamina.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, we were talking to Dr. Clapper the other day, Michael Clapper, and we've been watching documentaries and speeches that he was given 35 years ago, and this information hasn't changed. It's all still the same. It's not one of these passing fad diets or whatever. The evidence is there. It's been there this whole time, and these doctors are still fighting to get their message out there.
Oh, it's so infuriating. And the health one, there's an interesting one. When we went vegan, Barbie used to get occasional pain in her hands, and I quizzed her as to what was she doing that made her cause that. It turned out that she was playing golf, and at golf days she'd eat a sandwich with a bit of butter in it, and that was enough to crank up the arthritis in her hands, just that much. And everyone says, "Oh, well, that's just a one-off example." But then you read the books about the effect that dairying has on arthritis, and it's there in black and white over and over again. And yet, so many of my friends have got arthritis, and they still eat milk and cheese. And it's so well documented on one side, and so ignored on the other, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. If it doesn't come from your local GP that you've been to all your life, then it's not real. It's not true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Sad.
how has your health improved over this stage? It seems like the obvious sort of question.
Well, it's an interesting one because I was overweight and reasonably active, but overweight, and so I lost a lot of weight when I changed, and now I've just had my 79th birthday,
Oh,
and I'm as fit as a buckrat, and I think the biggest statement I can make is just express my own good health, which is as good as gold, and I think that's the biggest statement I can make now.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Dr. Clapper said to us, that's one of the best things that you can do is lead by example. So,
Yeah.
You never had to take the warfarin again. You're
No.
not full of medications.
No, nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Oh, that's
brilliant.
awesome.
It's
Love
very satisfying.
Yeah, must be. It's great. And just enjoying life in a beautiful part of the country. So you've mentioned that since reading your book, several people have gone vegan after reading it, which is fantastic. And having read it ourselves, I just want to put this book in front of everyone. So you've got some wonderful quotes that I'm going to be spieling to people for forever, because they're so bang on. Some of the ones that really stuck in our minds are we eat meat and dairy products as the result of learned behavior. We eat plants for survival, but our inclination to eat meat and dairy, that's been learned, that developed. It wasn't with us from the start. So I really like that one.
Did I say that?
You did say that. Yeah, that was fantastic.
That's a very good statement.
Great. It was a real light bulb thing. It was like, you're right. We're not, you've got a fantastic section in the book, which, really explains all of the evolution of humans, and how we've got to be the way we are, and those canine teeth that we've got. You've got all the comparisons there, all the data, and it's brilliant. It was just like, we've learned this is something that at some stage in man's evolution, someone's decided that it was a really good idea to try and eat this stuff and kill things to make us stronger. So that was an excellent quote.
I must read the book, mustn't I?
Yes, there's another great one that's really good, and it's quite, I might have to read straight from it, but I conjured up some great visuals for me. It was like, imagine that you're walking through an orchard on a summer's day. There are apples and plums hanging from the trees, and there are sheep grazing under them. Is your inclination to suckle the milk from the ewe, to tear the flesh from the lamb and chew on it, or to pick and eat a fruit? Which is true, and then you've got, in comparison, a lion wandering through the same area would demolish the ewe and the lamb, but leave the fruit alone. So, in reality, humans have never had the physical attributes to catch a sheep, suckle its milk, kill it, and tear its flesh off without the aid of multiple tools, and preferably a fire to cook it over. Which just puts everything in a nutshell, doesn't it? It's just like, it makes total sense. We're not lions. All these people that like to think, oh, but I'm the lion, I'm the top of the food chain, I've got these big teeth. It's just like, meh.
One of the discoveries I made during the writing of the book was the fact that when I was trying to put it all together in my head, that humans have, the difference between humans and every other animal is that we've got control of fire. And I think that's what is a making and breaking of us. It was a making of us in that we could cook rough old grains and things and get good food out of them, which allowed our brains to develop. Which you've read in the book, and I've just recalled. A lot of people tell me that it's the meat that we eat that makes our brains grow, but it's not. It's the vegetables we eat that make. And the fact that we cook them way, way, way back is what put us into the shape we're in. And so the fire, the control of fire is the making of us.
One of the ones that I really love is when you talk about a bus trip opened my eyes to the enormous lack of biodiversity along the hundreds of kilometers traveling past the green desert of New Zealand's monocultural pasture land. It felt like a tragedy for our native species and a tragedy for our country. I love that, because for us, we've lived on the road for coming up almost 4 years, and we've traveled the length and breadth of New Zealand. And for anyone who's come over here from overseas will see, often they comment on seeing all the sheep or what is now all the dairy farms, but it's just these big, vast green plains everywhere. And yeah, I love this country, but I hate seeing these plains of destruction, really.
But that is not in New Zealand, and in my mind, as in particular, as much as anyone else's, those rolling green fields is what we were brought up with, and we think that's the beauty of the country. And it shatters me, because there's no biodiversity in that land whatsoever, and just cruelly treated animals on it. and yet, so many people see that rolling green countryside as New Zealand and the beauty of New Zealand.
Yeah, clean.
And it's disappointing when you grow out of it, like you and I have, because then when you drive through it, you start screaming and saying, "Get rid of this bloody stuff."
Yeah, you really do. You really do. And we had a friend who visited New Zealand from the UK last year, and she spent the first part of her trip sort of down south with sort of Tianau, Fiordland, Milford Sound, all that beautiful stuff, you know. And then she went to the Waikato, which is where I farmed for you know, quite a few years, working on dairy farms. And she actually went home early. I remember reading her Facebook accounts. She could not handle the amount of animal agriculture that was surrounding her in that part of the North Island of New Zealand. And I thought at the time, oh, is it really that bad? I know it's a lot of farmland, but is it really that bad that you really can't handle it? You know, it's probably not the ideal place for a vegan, but is it really that bad? And then a few months later, we came back, made our way up from the South Island to that area. And as soon as we hit the North Island, we were just like, whoa, you know, because last time we left the North Island, we weren't vegan. So we didn't, just the same thing, beautiful green pastoral land, peaceful cows grazing, all of that, you know, and to look at it with different eyes like you did on that bus trip was quite heartbreaking, really.
Yeah, I can understand that. Another thing we've got to teach the country to come to terms with.
Definitely. But I think my favorite quote of all is, you know, if I can quote this one, is our New Zealand landscape must and will change. In my vision, green pasture will revert to forest, and domestic animals will become nothing more than species of interest. Dairy factories, milking sheds, wool sheds, freezing works, and millions of kilometres of fencing will become the dark satanic mills of New Zealand. I love that, because that's a vision that we have as well. Imagine if it was all covered in trees.
Thank you for reading that. I remember writing that. Now I'm very proud of that, actually, because I think it's all true. Thank you.
Oh, it really sums it up, you know, and hopefully, you know, it will be lovely to see things revert to that.
Well, they will. Rest assured, they will.
Yeah.
Not because of us necessarily, but the economics and culture will change, and that's what we'll finish up with one day.
One day, yeah, I really look forward to that, and we'll do our darndest to fight for that.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to have you on our side. Yeah.
And James, thank you so much for talking to us and for giving up your time. Where can people find out more about your wonderful book?
It's like yours. It's for sale, and it's being distributed by Nationwide Books, and it's in libraries and bookshops around the country. Or I've got a website, plantparadigm.com. So if people want to buy it, I can buy it from my website.
Oh, lovely. So we'll make sure we put the link in that once we put the video up and stuff like that, and so everyone can just easily click on that and hopefully get your wonderful book.
Yeah.
I really want to spread it as far as I can, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Yes, no problem. Is there anywhere else or anyone else that you would like to mention or recommend? You said that you've written another book, so I'm keen to read that now as well. That's my autobiography of my first 2/3 of my life. It's also for sale on plantparadigm.com. It's called Losing the Silver Spoon.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, I would be definitely keen to read about your adventures. You've had a very interesting and entertaining life, and you are, the proof is in the pudding. It is never too late to turn around and to make big change, and it's wonderful that you've been so active ever since. And so generous in sharing your information and helping other people. So yeah, good on you. It's.
Thank you very much. I regularly watch Michael Grieger's podcast. It's sort of like going to church. It just you know it all now. I know it all now, but it's lovely to just keep it being reinforced when he comes up with one of his blogs. And there was one he put out the other day about it's never too late, and how people with all sorts of illnesses at all sorts of ages, way beyond my age sometimes, can get massive recoveries just by going plant-based. So it's never too late. You're right.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. To support our speaker, follow the links provided in the description. You can keep up to date with the series by subscribing to our YouTube channel at VeganFTA, and also following our Facebook page, Instagram, or Pinterest. If you've enjoyed this series and you want to support it, you can also consider joining our Patreon. Every little helps, and your love and support goes a long way. Thanks for watching.